quick, we don't have much time. The clock is against me and I have to explain to you why I am disproportionately excited about a board game that is the size of a book. In this age of million-dollar Kickstarters with filigree fancy and overwrought embellishments, I am going to tell you why I am so passionate about a game that you will play for 15 minutes and love. And you'll play it with only one other person. Fugitive casts one of those people as a fugitive, somebody not so much always on the run as on the stumble, forever just one or two steps ahead of the other player, the marshal, who also always has almost just enough information to guess where that fugitive might be as they attempt to turn that stumbling into a full-on trip, enabling them to stand over them and utter that classic line from the film, The Fugitive. Aha! I've caught you, Han Solo. Aha! No. I, Tommy Lee Jones, am better at fugiting, is that a word? Than you, for I have captured you. Legendary lines. But getting to that point is so much easier said than done, because Fugitive expertly puts both players in a constant state of discomfort, forever feeling like you're not quite good enough at your job, at your half of the game, as if both of you are on either side of a seesaw and you're trying to tip the other person off without losing your balance. How does it do this? How does it achieve this interplay while being so small and also so simple?
It works like this. The chase is represented by 43 cards, most of which are split into 3 different decks, which players will take turns choosing from. However, cards 1, 2, 3 and 42 will start in the hand of the fugitive, and 42 represents the very, very end of the chase. If they can successfully play that card, they fled, they've escaped. The fugitive lays cards but face down to represent the path that they are escaping across, and they can lay a card as long as its value is up to 3 higher than the card that they have previously laid. The marshal, meanwhile, is constantly trying to guess the values of these cards, and if they guess any card at all along this route, it's revealed. And if they guess all the cards along the route, then they have caught up to the fugitive. They have seized their prey like a snake grabbing a mouse. But that's easier said than done, because each turn they can make a single guess, which could be one number, or they can make a whole flurry. Now bear in mind, this route is constantly getting bigger and bigger all the time, and if the marshal guesses a whole range of values and even one of those is wrong, they don't get to see anything. They don't get to find out if anything else they were trying to guess was correct. Between this back and forth of laying and guessing, both players are taking turns drawing cards from one of these 3 decks. These correspond to the start, the middle, and the end of the pursuit. Every card that a marshal draws is a card a fugitive will never have. They'll never be able to play that or visit that location. And it also gives the marshal a little more information about where the fugitive isn't. It's also very important that both players keep a close eye on which decks their opponents are drawing from. If that fugitive is drawing from the middle deck, they are probably about halfway through their escape, right? And they're looking for cards to help them along. If the marshal is drawing cards from the end of game deck, looks like they're trying to reduce the fugitive's future options, to cut them off before they finally get out of there.
And then there's the sprinting. You see, hopping hideouts that are up to 3 points apart would be a little too difficult for the fugitive, a little too predictable. So what they can do is put in a little extra burst of energy and go further. Every location card has, cannot run in this coat, some footsteps on, and each of those is an extra point further that you can go if you slip one or more of these cards under a location. It allows you to do a bigger leap to a spot that is hopefully harder for your pursuer to guess. Do a couple of these in a row and you will throw them off your trail totally, hopefully, and they'll be as helpless as a hamster in a hurricane.
But that's going to cost more cards, so which cards do you sacrifice? And if the marshal guesses a location where you've been doing some of the old sprinting, they get to see all the cards that are underneath it as well, meaning they get an even fuller picture of what is going on.
That picture is building up every turn as the marshal ticks more and more locations off their checklist, while at the same time the fugitive tries to trace an ever more haphazard trail, a trail gradually being uncovered by the marshal in the same way that you find loose solo socks on the floor as you're trying to put together a laundry load. And I love this. I love this constant back and forth and this ever-growing tension as the decks deplete, as the fugitive tries to find a new way to outwit the marshal or sort of bluff or semi-bluff about the location that they might have gone to next, without realizing that the marshal is actually closer on their trail than they might have thought, because they're sat here like an actual real detective doing actual real deduction to bring themselves closer and closer every turn. Some of those turns, it's actually best for the fugitive to draw a card but not play a new location, just not go anywhere, stay right where they are, which is a cocky move. It's a flamboyant flourish from a confident matador, but sometimes just increasing your options without moving on is the best thing to do. But don't dally. There is a constant and so very tangible sense of excitement to be had from rules that are really very, very simple, that are in no way over-engineered or over-complicated or over-designed, and it's this that makes me so excited about Fugitive, that made me so excited before this review even started, that made me so excited when I was writing it, so excited when I was outdoors, I'm excited, so excited when I was in the shower, I'm excited, so excited when I was asleep, so excited when I was having dinner, I'm excited, and I'm still excited now, days later. Fugitive reminds me of Shut Up and Sit Down classic Love Letter, another similarly simple card game where simplicity doesn't stand for lack of excitement or lack of important decisions. It stands for precision, for a kind of diligence. There's a certain expertise to be found in minimalism, in trying to distill down a design into the most important core elements, rather than trying to constantly add to it and build it into something larger and unnecessarily complex. Just a few more mechanics that I want to mention, just a couple more elements of the game, the first of which is the manhunt mechanic, which is one last attempt the marshal has to try and work out where the fugitive has gone. If they can make a flurry of guesses, work out what's left on the trail, they can catch them just before they escape, but that's incredibly difficult to do. And the second is events, which are series of cards that you can seed the deck with if you so wish. They add an element of randomness to the game and small advantages for one side or the other, like the opportunity to skip ahead or to peep at one of your opponent's cards, something like that. And the secret is they're not really necessary. I mean, sure, they add some unpredictability to things, and you may like that, but when the beating heart of the game is Jack the dog running off, when the beating heart of the game is this intimate deception and deduction between two players, Jack should really come back. They're not really necessary. They obfuscate things. It's like adding salt to your anchovies. I wonder if Jack likes anchovies. He is not behaving. So as I'm sure you've guessed by now, Shut Up and Sit Down enthusiastically recommends Fugitive, which deserves as much a place in your collection as that complex Eurogame about different kinds of wood, or that social deduction party game that needs 20 people, or that dexterity game you have that always makes a mess. Because you deserve a large and varied collection of different games. Because not everything needs to be big or complicated or take a long time to play, and because sometimes, and this is very important, sometimes you just don't want to spend a lot of money on a new board game. And one last thing about money, actually, although you will doubtless find Fugitive available to buy in all sorts of places online and offline, it can also be ordered direct through designer Tim Fowler's website. And although we always recommend whenever you can, you try and support your friendly local game stores, I think there's got to be something to be said about also directly supporting a designer in this way. Hello, this is the last video that I made before I was carried out to sea by freezing winds and died. If you're watching this, I'm gone now, but please subscribe and like. You see, turned that on its head, didn't I? As one final act as a living human. And watch these other videos that are beside me, or will be beside me, in remembrance of who I once was and the hundreds of things that I did before This horrible weather finally killed me. Thanks. I didn't kill my wife. I don't care.